Tears rolled down Madison's face as the classroom filled with laughter. She stared down at her open notebook, her breathing shaky, her hands trembling in her lap. A single tear fell and landed on the page, smudging her handwriting. Someone in the back snorted. Another voice whispered, "Here we go again." The teacher glanced her way, looking uncomfortable, but didn't say anything. He shifted awkwardly, continued writing on the board, pretending the moment didn't exist. Madison wanted to vanish. Her heart pounded so hard it echoed in her ears. She could feel 30 pairs of eyes burning into her. And then the classroom door creaked open. In walked her father, still in his work overalls, grease on his hands, tired eyes scanning the room. He said nothing at first. He just looked around. The laughter stopped. The silence that followed was louder than any insult they had ever thrown at her. Madison had just turned 13 when she moved to Hamilton Ridge Middle School in suburban Texas. It was her third school in 2 years, and each move had taken more out of her than the last. Her dad, a full-time auto mechanic and single parent, had found a stable job in the area and promised her this place would be better. The school looked bright and new, the hallways were spotless, the teachers smiled a little too much. It seemed like a good start. But Madison didn't feel at home. She was quiet, soft-spoken, the kind of girl who sat near the window with a book in her hand and a pencil tucked behind her ear. She loved sketching, faces, animals, nature, and kept a small drawing pad in her backpack. She wore large round glasses, oversized hoodies, and hand-me-down sneakers. She wasn't loud, didn't gossip, didn't try to impress. And in middle school, that kind of quiet often made you a target. Her first few days were awkward but uneventful. People stared a little, asked where she was from. She answered politely, but by the second week, the comments started. A boy in her homeroom called her Mad Mess On during the roll call. It got a few laughs. Then it became a thing. Soon, others were calling her that too. She tried to laugh it off, but it stung. One girl whispered behind her back, "She always looks like she's about to cry." Another responded, "That's because she probably is." It didn't take long for things to escalate. During math class one day, Madison left her phone on her desk while she went to the restroom. When she returned, the screen was unlocked and her front camera had been used to take close-up selfies of her face mid-blink. Someone had uploaded one to Snapchat with the caption, "When your face matches your GPA." She found out about it when a classmate showed her during lunch. The entire table laughed. Madison felt her throat tighten as she shoved her food away and walked to the bathroom. Another time she walked into her first period class to find her seat soaked with water. No one admitted to it. The teacher gave her a paper towel and asked someone else to be kind and let her sit next to them. No one moved. She stood there, cheeks burning, until the teacher finally said, "Let's just get started." But the worst came on a Tuesday morning. She arrived to find a folded piece of paper taped to her locker. It was a love note, supposedly from a boy in 9th grade. It read, "You cry cute. Let's meet behind the gym after school." She didn't know what to think. Her heart fluttered at first. But then the laughter came. The boy in question walked by and smirked, "Dream on." A group of students burst into laughter. Madison felt her knees wobble. That day she cried in class. She couldn't hold it in anymore. The moment her face crumpled, the classroom erupted. Some pretended to cry dramatically. Others whispered, "There she goes again." One girl pulled out her phone, pretending to take a picture. The teacher looked at her with a mix of pity and discomfort, but said nothing. He rubbed his chin, then continued with the lesson as if nothing had happened. Later that day, Madison visited the guidance counselor. She spoke slowly, voice shaking, as she tried to explain everything: the names, the pranks, the silence. The counselor nodded sympathetically, but offered little in return. "Middle school is rough," she said. "Kids can be cruel. Just try to stay strong. Let me know if it gets worse." Madison sat in the office chair, stunned. "Gets worse?" What did that even mean? How much worse did it have to get before someone cared? Before someone actually did something? And that night, when her father found her in her room with puffy eyes and a crumpled sketchbook in her lap, something shifted. Something was about to change. That night, Madison didn't come out for dinner. Her room was quiet, too quiet. Her father, Mark, gave her space at first. He knew middle school could be brutal. But when it got late and her lights were still off, he knocked gently on her door. No response. He pushed it open and found her curled under a blanket, shoulders trembling. Her sketchbook was lying next to her on the floor, pages bent and tear-stained. Her glasses were off, face buried in her arms. He sat beside her on the edge of the bed. For a long minute, neither of them said a word. "You want to talk about it?" he asked softly. She shook her head. "Did someone hurt you?" Another shake. He sighed. "Sweetheart, if you don't tell me, I don't know how to help." Madison finally looked up, her eyes swollen. "They laugh when I cry. They take my things. They call me names. Even the teachers don't say anything." Mark's jaw tightened. "Give me 5 minutes. I'll be at that school tonight." "No," she whispered, sitting up fast. "Please, Dad. You'll only make it worse." He paused, breathing hard, then exhaled slowly. "Okay, I won't embarrass you, but I won't let this continue." He stood, paced the room once, then came back and picked up her sketchbook from the floor. He turned a page, saw a rough drawing of a girl in a crowd, melting into the background. "You're not invisible," he said, handing it to her. She looked away. Mark opened the top drawer of her desk and grabbed a clean sheet of paper. He handed her a pen. "Write this down," he said gently. "Write, I am not what they say. I am what I survive." She blinked, then slowly started writing. When she finished, he taped the note to her mirror. "Read that every morning, out loud." That night she stayed up late, flipping through her sketchbook. She added new lines, softer shades, sharper eyes. For the first time in weeks, her drawings had color. She started journaling again, short entries, messy handwriting, raw feelings, but they were hers. By the weekend, she wasn't smiling yet, but she was standing a little straighter. The next Monday, things were quiet, until third period. She returned from the restroom to find her journal missing. She froze at her desk, searching her bag again. Her hands started to sweat. Then she heard it, laughter. Not the usual kind. This was louder, bolder. She looked up and saw a boy from the back row reading out loud from her journal, mocking her words. "Today I felt like I didn't exist." "Aw, poor baby Madison," he jeered, holding the journal up like a trophy. The class roared. Someone mimicked her voice. Another added fake crying sounds. One girl even filmed it on her phone. Madison stood frozen, her chest tight. Her legs shook as she grabbed her bag and bolted out of the room. She didn't know where she was going. She just needed to leave. 10 minutes later, the classroom door opened again. In walked her father. He was still in his Navy work overalls, his hands marked with grease, a tired look on his face, but his eyes were sharp, focused. No one said a word. He scanned the room, then stepped forward slowly. "I'm Madison's father," he said, "and I heard some of you think her feelings are funny." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't yell, but every word landed like a brick. "You laugh at her tears, but you forget tears are human, and the day you stop feeling, you stop being human." The room was dead silent. He looked at the teacher, who stood frozen near the board. "And what you allow is what will continue," Mark said calmly. "So you need to decide if you're here to educate students or watch them destroy each other." The teacher opened his mouth to speak, but didn't. Mark turned to leave, but paused at the door. "I didn't come here to fight. I came here to protect my daughter and any other kid who's afraid to cry." He left the room in silence. No one laughed after that. The next morning, Madison stayed home from school. Her father called the front office and said, in the firmest tone he'd ever used, that she needed a mental health day. No arguments were made. The secretary simply replied, "Of course. Let us know if you need anything." He appreciated the tone but wished it had come sooner. That day, Madison barely left her room. She slept, she wrote, and she drew. Her sketchbook pages were still filled with pain, but now they held outlines of hope. She sketched her classroom as she remembered it, not just the desks and walls, but the way people looked at her, how they didn't. Then she drew her father standing in the doorway like a shadow made of steel, his words echoing across the paper. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't polished, but it was real, and it helped her breathe again. Meanwhile, back at school, word had spread like wildfire. By lunchtime, nearly everyone had heard what had happened: the crying, the stolen journal, the father who walked in and calmly shut down the whole room with just a few words. Some students mocked it. "Can't believe she called her daddy to fix it," one boy joked in the lunch line. But others shook their heads. "No," another replied quietly, "he didn't yell. He just told the truth." And no one knew what to say back. In classrooms and hallways, there was an unfamiliar tension, reflection. Teachers whispered in the staff lounge about what they'd missed. Some were embarrassed, others were just beginning to understand. The guidance counselors scheduled extra student check-ins. A few faculty members held a lunchtime meeting to discuss emotional visibility in the classroom. Even the janitor, Mr. Ray, who usually kept to himself, told a group of boys loitering near Madison's locker, "It takes guts to cry in front of people. Guts some of y'all don't even have." By Friday, the school announced a mandatory assembly. The auditorium buzzed with confusion as students filed in, unsure if they were in trouble or about to watch a video on cyber safety again. But when Principal Daniels walked on stage, alone, holding a single index card, the room fell quiet. He looked out at the crowd, not with frustration, but with something deeper: responsibility. "This week, we failed one of our students," he said. "Not because we didn't see the bullying, but because we didn't act. What happened to Madison could have been prevented if we created a space where students felt safe and teachers felt responsible for more than just grades and attendance sheets." He paused, giving the silence time to settle. "We talk a lot about success in this school, GPA, test scores, college prep. But none of that means anything if our students are afraid to show emotion, if they feel like tears make them weak, if they believe that kindness is weakness. It's time we make emotional safety just as important as academic success." That afternoon, when Madison returned to school, something unexpected happened. As she stood at her locker, trying not to make eye contact with anyone, a girl from her English class approached her quietly. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't say anything when they laughed at you. I wanted to. I just didn't." Madison didn't speak, but her eyes met the girl's, and she gave the smallest nod. A boy from her science class came next. "We were wrong," he admitted. "We thought it was funny, but it wasn't. I know that now." More followed. Some spoke softly. Others just gave her a look that said, "I see you now." Not all of them were people she even recognized, but they came one by one. Some apologized. Others simply stood near her like silent witnesses to what she had endured. The weight of their presence, even unspoken, meant something. Later that week, Mr. Taylor, the teacher who had once stood by while she cried in his classroom, pulled her aside after class. His voice was low, his hands folded. "I owe you an apology," he said. "I saw something happening and I let it slide. I told myself I didn't want to embarrass you. But the truth is, I didn't want to deal with it. I'm sorry. I'm listening now." Madison didn't respond with words. She just nodded, then walked away, head a little higher than before. The next morning, during homeroom, she was called to the main office, her stomach twisted. She hadn't done anything wrong, but the nerves hit anyway. When she walked in, Principal Daniels stood there alongside the school counselor and 2 senior students from student government. "We are forming a new student mental health and inclusion board," he explained. "It's time we let students lead the conversation on how we treat one another." You've already started that work, even if you didn't ask to. We'd like you to be a founding member. You don't have to say yes. But we think your voice belongs at that table." Madison's throat tightened. She wasn't used to being invited in or asked. The feeling of being chosen, seen, was still foreign, but it was real. She looked at them, and for the first time in a long time, felt seen. "I'll do it," she said. Her voice was quiet but unshakable. In the months that followed, change came in small, powerful ways. Posters appeared in hallways. "Empathy is strength." Teachers began opening class with 1-minute check-ins. The guidance counselor started weekly open circles where students could speak freely without judgment. A suggestion box was placed in the cafeteria, and students were encouraged to submit thoughts anonymously on how to make the school better. Even morning announcements began to include mental health resources and positive affirmations. Madison's drawing, the one she sketched the night after she stayed home, was framed and placed outside the main office. Underneath it, a small plaque read, "You are not what they say, you are what you survive." She started journaling again, but this time, the entries held light. She wrote about a girl who sat next to her at lunch, about a teacher who complimented her project, about mornings that didn't feel so heavy, about hope, one breath at a time. One afternoon, she noticed a younger student sitting alone in the cafeteria, eyes red, backpack clutched tightly. Madison didn't hesitate. She picked up her tray and sat beside her. "You okay?" she asked gently. The girl nodded slowly, trying to hide her face. "Me too," Madison said. "Most days." They didn't speak much after that. They didn't have to. Sometimes being seen was enough. That moment didn't go viral. No one took a picture, but it mattered more than any applause ever could. As the school year drew to a close, Madison reflected on everything: the silence, the pain, the stolen journal, her father's words, and her own strength. They had tried to shame her tears, but in the end they gave her a voice, a real one, a lasting one. True worth lies not in appearances, but in actions. Like Madison, we all risk letting bias blind us, judging others by what they wear, how they speak, or how they express emotion. But respect and kindness are choices we can make every day. We can turn cruelty into compassion and silence into strength. Apply this in your own life. Stand up, speak kindly, be someone's safe space. Thanks for being part of this powerful journey. Drop a comment below. What part of Madison's story moved you the most? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more inspiring stories.